That's Toya.
That's Mike.
And this is Tech Beats and Bytes. What's going on, y'all? What's going on? How y'all doing?
What they saying in the chat? How y'all feeling? I'm good.
How y'all feeling? Can you talk to us? Tell us what y'all going through today.
Right.
Hope y'all is feeling better than you was last week, because we are.
Are we? Are we?
Hypothetically, I mean, in theory, it's better than it was, but you know. So, first of all, want to address something real quick for those that have been seeing the not really safe for work post and video that I put up. That's the reference in the background. Artistically, that's where that whole photo and video came from. Also, in all due respect, that also comes from the Ohio Players, Honey, which was an album by the Ohio Players, and then the specific song is Sweet Sticky Thing. So,
right. So for those who don't know, share a little bit more about what you're referencing. You can't just be about it and think everybody knows what you're talking about.
Did a little artistic photo shoot and video, creative content. As an artist, you don't always create in the same mediums. And one of the things I've always wanted to do, this painting that's behind me, that's from 2003, was to bring the painting to life. And found a chocolate model, and we did a video with strawberries and honey. Cherries wouldn't have worked out. Cherries are too small and actually wouldn't have had the contrast, because cherries are deeper red. You eat raw cherries, they're not that bright red that you get in the club. So for contrast, we use strawberries instead. So basically, between video and photography, I recreated the art in a live format. And now the goal is to redraw her in watercolor and paint that to match this painting in the back.
So you're creating a series, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
So it's going to be available in prints? You doing?
Absolutely not. It'll be available in this house.
Mugs.
I think I'm going to make a shirt, though, with it on there. I don't know. I mean, you know how it is. Everything got a price. Right.
So second question, did you shoot at Marcellus and Dread Spot from the last conversation? Okay.
Yeah, that was done at now known as Erotica Black. So erotica.black, giving Black people the freedom and the platform to reclaim openly their sexuality in any way, shape, and form. And also the informative side of those things.
Right.
Hold on, I really just had somebody banging at my door like the cops.
Right, you got a popo. So if anybody did not see last week's show, definitely check out that one, because Dred was kind of skirting around it. I was trying to get him to say exactly what his
Hold on 1 second, because he waiting. Dante, give Toya the frame. This dude was waiting.
So now you know what more of that is. So it's basically a space that allows you to explore your sexuality. And we talked about that quite a bit towards the end of last week's show. So as Mike was saying, the series that he's now working on and has released on social, he shot it at the location. So it's a really dope location. I haven't seen it in person yet, but he's offering classes, one-on-one sort of sessions. And I mean one-on-one where he can sort of work with you and your partner to then help you explore more about your sexuality together. And then also the play aspect of it, right? The fetish aspect of it. So it allows some of that freedom, which is what we talked about last week, in the exploration of your sexuality. So
yeah, and it means a lot. And a lot of people, it's like you said, it's a lot of educational component. It's not just about being a hoe or a slut, There's a lot of educational, and there's also a lot of mental aspects that go into these things that people don't understand. So a lot of depth and a lot of exploration, but that's just on one side. So yeah, that's what happened. Great thing to show. So Toya will be doing her photo shoot soon.
No, but we got something else I was about to hit y'all up about.
Go ahead.
On in. No, we got to talk about this offline first.
Oh, okay, cool.
Get right on in with the collab, and especially after you did that whole series. it could be kind of dope. So we'll see.
We spark creativity. This is how collaborations work. Real quick to Kim Kardashian. The bus boycotts lasted for like 248 days. You guys cannot be protesting by not posting on Instagram for 24 hours to make impact. That's just a bad day of service. I understand that y'all want to make change, you know, and all your little celebrity friends, Leonardo DiCaprio, but y'all aren't changing the hate of Facebook and Instagram by not posting for 24 hours, which you posted on Instagram that you weren't going to post for 24 hours. So I just need people to do a little bit more.
Now you see this space?
I know, right? Like, fam, that was your thing. So we have some other topics we're going to discuss with our guest because she covers news, and today will be a little bit more informative because I also want to talk to her about people are reporting on stories and how things are going. So this young lady has become a voice in the media world of South Florida, a voice that's needed, a young voice especially for Black media. A lot of our Black media and Black content is owned by, I would say, the 40 plus demographic. So to have someone in their late 20s, I believe, maybe early 30s, I don't know how old your day is, but let's go with late 20s, is very powerful. So we would like to bring to the screen Janey Tate. Janey Tate.
Woo, woo, woo.
Love the energy. How you doing, fam? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here with two of my favorite people. I'm excited to be a part of this. This is big time.
You know what? You have earned your ranks to climb that ladder to be on this now. You've always been there.
I appreciate that. I really do.
You know, we had to take some words, and the biggest thing was me and Toya love to hear. We love to have our conversation, so we probably need to get back to a format of just doing our podcast. But Tech Beats and Bytes was always put together to highlight people from the community. It's just that we were doing it in the Miami community, so people being on time and showing up to be in front of a camera was a challenge. But now in the COVID world, it's a lot easier to do it. So COVID allowed us to switch our format to go back to our original format, which will highlight people in the community to have a bigger voice.
Right.
And as Dante will tell you, you know, some people will say they're late because of traffic, but I'm late just getting to the bedroom to turn on the lights and cameras. So,
you ain't never lying.
Things happen, but it's at least now no more than 5 minutes late, but it works out. So Janey, tell us a little bit about why high-low news. You went from the beauty world and everything else you was doing. Yes, y'all, that is the former Miss Miami Gardens, just in case you didn't know. So you went from the beauty world, got your grown woman on, and now you into the world of media. What was the transition? I really don't know what you were doing before. I just knew you were always active.
When you met me, I was in college. So okay. That's a part of the pageant world, the Miss America organization. And that actually gave me my start into journalism because I met a reporter who was hosting the first pageant that I competed in for Miss Miami Gardens, and she encouraged me to start doing internships and kind of gave me the ropes. Shari Williams, who used to be a reporter at CBS 4 Miami. So it all kind of intertwined. I think by the time that we had met, I knew I wanted to do journalism. I didn't know that it would manifest in this way.
Hey, real quick, I want you to come closer to your screen if you can.
Okay.
All right. So what was your actual college degree in?
Mass communication and journalism.
Okay, so you're actually using your degree.
Yeah.
Earning off that student debt. Pay it off with doing what you actually got that degree.
Yeah. If I know what I knew now, I would definitely do some things differently.
That's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Media, you have this going on. You jump into the world of telling stories. You now realize you're not just telling stories. You have that moment of realization, oh shit, I'm becoming a voice of the community for a particular demographic. How did it feel when you realized you were becoming that voice and that outlet? When how did you feel, or what was the story that made you realize people are actually paying attention to what I say?
I think once I became more vocal on social media, because as a journalist, they teach you not to be in the story. You're supposed to kind of be that fly on the wall that gives color, that gives information, who's unbiased. But I started using my social media to speak out. And of course, when you know, my experiences with the Miami Herald as an intern, Miami Times as a staff reporter. So you have a platform with that. And so people start following you. And I started sharing my views, and I realized that, okay, people like what I'm saying, or I'll be out somewhere and somebody will say, oh, I saw what you posted, or I saw your article. And so that to me wasn't too, I wouldn't say it wasn't cool. It wasn't something that I wanted. Like, I just wanted to kind of tell the stories and just be there and don't really care about what I'm saying. But now I take it as like, okay, this is a platform. It's my responsibility. And I take it seriously, and it's something that, you know, I treasure now. But at first it was kind of like, I don't really want people in my business like that, because coming from the pageant world, I would get a lot of criticisms, like people talk about my appearance and certain things I'm doing, if I go out, how I have to behave. So I didn't want that. But now I'm back in it, and I just got to take it, you know, along with the platform that I created. I'm just taking it along with it.
Now, I don't know if it's strategically, but I know that you didn't mention iHeartRadio, but you're a multimedia person.
Oh, I mean, it's, you know, when I think of journalism, I don't think of iHeart because I wasn't there as I guess in that capacity. I worked for them as a sales rep. And so for me, that was part of me learning the business of media. So I call iHeart my crash course, but definitely it's a part of this whole person that you see today and what I do with Hello News. I definitely am grateful for my experience there, the people I met, Papa Keith. Like, for me, I always say I turn iHeart into my own type of job. Like, of course, I was supposed to be there for sales, but I really got into it with Papa Keith and getting guests on the show to tell stories about issues and things in the community that his audience needed to know. So I took my journalism background and brought it into iHeart in my own special way.
But see, that's a key component of why I wanted you to mention that, because you brought us onto PK Live. And I've always told some entrepreneurs, sometimes, even if you plan on getting fired or know it won't work out, use the job to learn what you need to know while it's paying your bills to build the empire that you want to build. Like, work it until it doesn't work anymore. And then they were, hey, wait, we ain't even paying you for this. Why are you doing it? Cool. You want to either give me a raise or you want to fire me, because I'm still doing good no matter what it is that I'm doing. And I've always
That's so interesting that you said that, because I've had that conversation so many times with my managers. They was like, we didn't hire you to be a producer on Papa Keith's show or for a show on 103.5 The Beat. But I was so good at like what we were doing with the community work, and as Papa Keith increased his reach into the community, it was like, okay, there's a value to what she's doing. And then, you know, when I hit my sales goals, or, you know, I'm a little charismatic, so I could kind of finesse my way into certain things. So it's like, we like her. She ain't doing everything that we telling her to do, but there's a value that she's bringing to the company.
Right. And that's entrepreneurship anyway. It's entrepreneur. When you are able to find solutions within your existing job and then make it happen, you're creating a whole new space. So when you're talking about Hello News, what space were you trying to fill at that time, right? So you shared a lot about like your background, what you were doing, but what did you see was missing in the community that made you say, I want to start this?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, from being a reporter working for mainstream or white media, I realized that our stories weren't being told. I felt like they weren't being given the respect or screen time or page space. A lot of issues that we cared about, or just things that we thought were important, it wasn't deemed newsworthy. And to me, I just thought that was like a really big miss on those companies to not like kind of dig into that. And, you know, outside of the MLK or Black History Month, you know, like, you know, even a show like this, like for me, I would pitch something like this and be like, we need to profile these people. They're doing this. It's like, does our audience, you know, is it reaching everybody, you know, that coded language? And so for me, and, you know, I was just getting frustrated with having those conversations. I realized there was a hole in the market where our stories weren't being told. And then I pivoted to also focus on millennials. I realized that we're the largest demographic in the country. We're going to shape the future of this country, and we need to be informed. And I realized that baby boomers and Gen X, they're informed. They plug into the news and community issues. But I realized we weren't, my generation wasn't plugging in because it wasn't presented to them in a way that they could digest or that they cared about. So I wanted to bring like, the Miami Herald meets the Shade Room, meets Miami Times. Like it's a mix of everything. I say it's the medicine and the candy. We have fun content, we have informative content, we have opinion content, but it's all to inform like the hyper local community here in South Florida and beyond, one day.
So, I mean, I guess I don't know where we have this weird delay coming from. All right. But I guess in some of your building and the content you were building, how did you decide really which direction you were going to go? Because there's so much that needs to be told. And I always tell people sometimes the hardest thing is to pick your lane and decipher what you're going to approach. How did you make that decision? Because I've seen you do some things that are very fun, which makes sense to draw people in, because sometimes you gotta linger them in with those conversations, like some of your show recaps that you do. You linger them in with that, and then when they're there, they get to see the more serious and in-depth content. But how did you decide the lanes you were going to pursue?
I think to like really hone into, I guess, say like the millennial voice was actually a friend of mine. He was like, because at first when I first started Hello News, it was just the Black community, but I'm like, we're not a monolith, that's so broad, like what age group? So when he told me to focus in on millennials, that helped me to figure out, okay, what type of content they would want to talk about or read or see, and so that helped me to figure out, okay, we're talking about shows, we're talking about pop culture, but we also want to know what's going on with this government race or election or what new businesses popping up. I like to say millennials are very, we have a lot of levels to us. Like we're not just one side. Like we want to go to the community meeting and be woke, but we also want to go to the club and go to happy hour or know what's the new business that's going on. So for me, being able to narrow it down to that age group helped me to figure out what type of content I should produce.
So 2 off-the-wall questions.
Okay.
When you and Munch gonna bring the show back?
You know what? We're so the show that you're talking about, for the viewers out there, he's talking about a podcast that I was doing with Munch called Trapping Ain't Dead. Right now it's on hiatus. Right now I don't think we're going to come back in the way that it was. If it does come back, I think Munch will be hosting it by himself and I'll come in as a guest host. But we decided that it would be best to kind of like let me focus on Hello News, and he wanted to take a break to focus on like his production side of stuff. And a lot of people don't know this. Trapping Ain't Dead is Munch's baby. Like that, he created that. He started the show without me, and I was brought in afterwards to be a part of what he created. So I didn't really have I don't have a lot of say in what like if we do it, if we don't do it. Like it's his company, it's his baby, and so I was just along for the ride, and I was happy he chose me. But he made the decision that he would take a break from production.
Okay. And the other question?
Wait, what was the other question? My bad.
I actually forgot now. I think I said something about Munch. When is this show coming back? I forgot the other question, but we'll move on. Now that we're here.
Okay.
Before we get into some of the funner and more controversial topics, one of the topics I want to address is based around mental wellness and just protection of our women in the community. And there's been some recent chatter on your page addressing, being included in emails and informational exchange between you and an ex that happens to be an elected official in the city of Opa-locka. Giving you the opportunity while people, because this is 18 minutes around your peak time when you have your most viewers, and then people drop off after the 30-minute mark and then they come back. Is there anything you want to address with that? And the only question I wanted to ask you is, how do you plan or how do you foresee in your upcoming future to overcome that hurdle? Because Black South Florida is a very small community when you start getting into the realms of success and elected officials, entrepreneurs, and things of that nature. Just wanted to give you a chance to address that.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And you've always been like a supporter of me, checking in on me offline. So I want to publicly say thank you for that, Mike.
No problem.
And what you're talking about, I put a post up about getting communication still about my ex who was abusive. He's the vice mayor of Opa-locka. And And it's from people who I call professional colleagues. Like I'll get press releases, or somebody will tag me in a post with pictures of him, or they'll send me a text with a flyer of him, something, an event that they're doing, not knowing or remembering what happened. I spoke about it 2 years ago and kind of came out with it and kind of built like a mini platform about domestic violence and domestic violence awareness. And for me, I think I'm still trying to figure out what that balance will look like. And my post was like, should I just, kind of leave the coverage of South Florida because it's kind of hard to avoid it, or to expect everybody to care or keep in mind or top of mind what my issue was with him or my experience with him? Or is it, I just, dig in and go to therapy and just like not take it personally, or just keep reminding people like, hey, this is something that happened. But sometimes that conversation could be uncomfortable. And one of the, I actually asked for advice on that post, and someone was like, well, just use it as a part of your platform and tell that story. And so many of us have had to deal with exes in this professional world. We still have to see them or deal with them to a certain extent. And you sharing your story can help, someone else, or just let us know we're not alone in this. So, I've reduced my coverage of Opa-locka, even though my blog is about Black South Florida, and I hate that I have to do that. But for my own mental health, I don't want to keep running into stories or getting pictures about him, especially with, never acknowledging the situation, never apologizing, him running my name through the mud, calling me all type of names to people who confronted him about it. So it's not the best situation. But I also don't want to feel like he's, running me away from this. I'm trying to figure out like what's the best balance of what my coverage would be like in that area. And as we expand, maybe I'll put a freelancer on it and they take it and I don't have to deal with it. So that's kind of what I'm doing with it.
I hope you see the platform as some form of encouragement to continue. Of course, for one, you got to control your own triggers, but don't ever let somebody run you away from your dreams and your passion. So I just wanted to make sure we were able to say that and you were able to address that, because some people may be watching this that didn't know, so now they know. And some people that may not have known how serious of an issue it is, they now know that it's nothing to play with. And being sensitive and taking that little bit of extra time might be of a concern. Or you might have to unfortunately remove yourself from some mailing lists, and they're going to have to just reach out to you directly when they want you to have the information.
Yeah.
Another thing, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say something because you said something about like how serious it is. I think people see my, I guess, playful personality. I think that's a part of it too. They thought I wasn't serious. I think they thought, okay, she's laughing or she's joking about something, and they thought maybe it wasn't that deep. And I'm like, no, this man put his hands on me. Like, this is a domestic violence. This is something serious. I'm not going to wear it every day like a cape. It's like you said, it's triggers and certain things that I deal with in my own private time. I don't wear it every day. I'm actually, in a good space mentally. But like I said, for me to open an email and not expect to see a picture of him, and it's like, oh shit. And it's a reminder. So it's that type. I'm sorry, I cursed, but it's that type of thing. And I think that was something I think I have to overcome too, with people just not taking me as serious or not understanding how serious it is. Like I even had to deal with that with my own mom. Like she thought I was okay because she saw Facebook posts with me smiling in pictures, and I'm like, but you didn't even check to see if I was okay. Like you're taking my social media post as okay, this is her mental health and her state right now. And so I just wanted to kind of address that because you made that point about people not taking it seriously.
Yeah, but that's a really good point about sort of the our appearance, of how everything doesn't need to be discussed all the time, but that does not mean that you don't have something going on inside. And you often hear, going back to mental health about those who commit suicide, right? On the surface, they look okay, but underneath, that's where the real sort of troubles are. So no, definitely awesome for you for speaking up, one, and then for being a bit of a resource to have that dialogue and that conversation, because so many people have gone through what you've gone through, and they need to hear it and see what it looks like to come out on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, it's been something we've addressed. We talked about, our last show was nothing but mental wellness, and it was a show to kind of step away from everything. So one is to let you know you have our support, regardless. I mean, this is not to make any accusations or beliefs, but it doesn't matter. We support you. We want you to be in a good space. So I want to see you because you got a lot of talent and you got to use your talent. You got a voice now. You got to use that voice.
I was this close, Mike.
I know.
This close, LaToya. You already know, Mike, how we talk offline. I was about to say, F this shit. I'm not gonna deal with y'all. Let me just redo Halo somewhere else because this shit is too much.
But that's the thing. Use it to expand, because maybe you use some of your resources to go somewhere else. Because I think one thing, you need to cover Broward, you need to cover West Palm Beach, because a lot of people that are Miami are actually Broward commuters. They're not as Miami as people think. So maybe I think you should definitely use your voice in Broward, because I can't think of anyone that's doing anything close to what you're doing in Broward County. So I think Broward would definitely use that voice. And speaking of expansion of your voice, won't you tell us about the partnership you built with Refresh Miami and Nancy Dahlberg? I know Nancy is a very big supporter of digital grass in our community. So won't you tell us about the partnership you have with Refresh Miami?
Oh, that's cool. The partnership with Refresh Miami, even though we haven't really like implemented anything yet, but it was like, okay, we'll share content if you want to be write op-eds or write articles for us, we can do that. And then the more active partnership is with the New Tropic. And that's something that I do every week. I take over their newsletters every Wednesday, and I'm putting in Hilo news stories or stories about the Black community from different publications, and giving them news that they probably wouldn't search for or probably wouldn't get normally, and also giving them a perspective from the Black community here in South Florida that some of their readers may not be privy to. So that's been fun. And it's been, a really cool expansion for the brand as well, because the New Tropic has a really large audience. So I've been that's been a lot of fun to do that.
Did you build that relationship with Chris Sofa or Rebecca Munson, or who reached out to you?
Rebecca, we actually connected in 2015, like through Twitter, and like met up for like lunch, and was trying to figure out how can we work back then, but it just didn't work. And then like over the years, we would always check in. She's definitely a resource. She gives me a lot of like information because she's in this world. And then this year we figured out, okay, this works. This is something that we could work on together.
Yeah, Rebecca, to me, Rebecca's one of those underrated people. A lot of people don't realize how much she does and how she's everywhere. She's just a little bit more silent about it, but Rebecca is a very dope ally, dope friend, a great person to have around. So shout out to Rebecca and Chris at Where By Us. I know they've been doing good, and congratulations with their success.
Yeah, the whole team. I love them. Chris, Bruce, Zach, all of them. They've been really dope, really good resources. Like if I need something for Hilo or just in general, like they're there. Like I really, I can't even say enough about them.
So now I want to get to the other side. How do you feel that if you have to talk about a real issue, 10, 20 likes, 7 comments, versus if you're just doing a coverage on a show that's somewhat just basically sit around, whine, talk, and gossip, 230 comments, 18 shares, 50 plus likes?
It's definitely constantly frustrating. I'm like, okay, maybe one day they'll come around. But it is definitely, like you said, I'm like, I keep them here, and then I'm like, hey y'all, don't forget now, come over here and read about the news. Like it's just the name of the game. Like every, entertainment that drives stuff. So it's a part of it. I don't really take it too personally, but I'm like, I wish those numbers are a little bit better, because it's information that we need to know.
I wish I could not take it personally, but I feel there's something. I wonder, and maybe our viewers couldn't probably respond to this because we always are talking about politics, tech, and entrepreneurship. But I don't know, what is it that intrigues people to not continuously learn versus continuously take in trash? Or even if they are learning, why not support and show those things? Because we already have the algorithms working against us. And I think lately, the last show that I watched, which was very annoying to me because I felt like it didn't relate to me because I researched my own facts, and it was The Social Dilemma on Netflix, and how The Social Dilemma is talking about how these algorithms and the dopamines of seeing the like buttons and seeing the share and being, as we call it, the candies, being addicted to those things, are starting to shape our society, where people will get to a point where they just take in false information without ever seeking the truth. And while I feel that might be right for some, the first thing I was pissed off about is, how are you going to have this whole thing about the whole social media world, and you don't mention Black Twitter, and you have no Black people on this whole platform? Everybody on The Social Dilemma was white. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you only talked about the negative, but people are still making choices And if you know your algorithms are programmed to go against spreading truthful information, why not just fix the algorithm besides the obvious because of the greed and the money that comes with it? So it's just become more frustrating for me where a lot of people may not know it. I have a lot of friends that I've had to unfollow them or either just dislike them as a friend because of the kind of content they're consistently posting. Not that I don't like them as a person, but it's like it's always the same thing. So what do you see in the future filtering your content or building up? Because one day I mean, 10 years from now, you're still a millennial, but now you're in control of the future of our country. So how do you think your voice comes into place with shaping that?
I think it comes into play, like I said, with providing that information. I also feel like just being creative and figuring out ways to cut through the chatter of it all. Or if it is, a little bit of bait and switch, like, hey, you came here for this, but I'm gonna give you this information too. I think also too though, and I like to use the shade room. A lot of people don't, like them, but if you look at how they've transformed their content over the years, I feel like they're a really good model to follow. Like they started with the trash, they got us there, and then like you see them do the shade room, Black Love, shade room politics. Like you see them getting into different content, and because those people are already there for that information, they're consuming it whether they realize it or not, or they're looking at it as well. And so for me, ultimately, that's a part of the model that I want to implement into High Low News as well. Like I want to put in some more of that stuff. And honestly, that stuff gets a lot more clicks. If I put something gossipy or like some tea or some shade, that stuff comes in. As I grow my team, we'll be able to push out more content like that. And then I feel like that will be the way that I'll be able to engage the millennial audience. To me, I just feel like that's just what it is. I feel like you can't really fight against it. It's like you got to kind of figure out, okay, how do I play within that, social media world or the likes world, where everybody wants this type of thing, like that type of content. And then also too, I feel like profiling people like yourself or different influencers, that I think that helps as well, because that brings people to your party, so to speak. And so that's something as well that I want to implement too, like in profiling more influencers, like Dat Boy Funny or Funny Bombshell, or these different people who are from South Florida and they have like these large followings, but to give them a profile is something that they probably wouldn't get from the Miami Hero. Like they wouldn't profile them. So that's something else too that I want to implement into my coverage, and I feel like that will also help keep that millennial audience engaged.
Yeah, because it's escapism. When you think about people wanting to get into the gossip and the entertainment, that's the fun, right? You're not reading, it's not heavy. So unfortunately, like you said, it is what it is, but there's a place for it. You can do both. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You can figure it out and make it work.
And I have a little bit more hope in millennials. I think we do seek it out when we need to. Sometimes we want it spoon-fed to us, like, okay, just give it to me. I don't want to research too much. But I feel like a lot of us, especially since we're getting older, we're having families, we're in the acquisition phase of our life. We're buying, we're making big purchases, we're living in places. So you want to know about property tax because you want to know what's going on in your city because you're buying a house. And so I think as we're getting older, I just feel like you just plug in anyway as you get older. So I just want to be able to make sure we have a platform for that, because if we're already tuned out of like the Miami Herald or the Miami Times, where do we go when we're ready for that information?
No, good point. Question. As you grow, will you continue to just target millennials, or will you begin to then, you know what I mean, like Gen X, just keep going, or whatever the after millennial is? But are you going to continue to grow and just stay targeted on millennials, or will you sort of stay in the space and just let people kind of cycle through?
You know what? I haven't thought about that. For me, because the millennial demographic is so big, I think, along the line, I mean, a long time, depending on how big that generation gets, and if they're just too big to ignore, of course we'll include it, but I think my focus will remain it. I think for me, expansion looks like, okay, duplicating this in different markets. And it's ironically right before this call, I had a call with someone in Portland who wanted to do this same exact thing and pretty much franchise High Low News into that market. And so I think that's what the future of Hilo News look like as far as expansion. I'm not sure if we're ready to go into like that Gen Z population. I just feel like they're not even checking for this right now. So I also too want to feed into that audience who I feel like would feed into the the content.
Gen Z would be placed where?
They're that because millennials are like 1980 to 1997. So I think a Gen Z is 98 and younger. Like, so they may be, they're in their early 20s, teens, like that age.
Too much. I do believe you still have the opportunity, because the one thing I've always liked, and like I want to see the female version of this, but I also want him to just make it a show. Trevor Noah's Between the Takes, the conversations that he has is a little bit more unscripted, where it's not really where he's trying to be comedic. He's not trying to follow that format that John put in front of him, but he's just actually answering questions. He's so intelligent, he's so knowledgeable, but to me, I don't grasp that from the show. You know, his outtake segments when they're filming in between the commercial takes versus his actual show, to me, are night and day. I can digest the outtakes and learn a lot. The show just irritates me. I don't know if it's the skits or what it is. The show doesn't work for me. But hearing him talk and his comedy and everything else, even his tweets and his messaging is absolutely amazing. And it's funny when we're talking about millennials and everything. One of the scoops today is that I found out, I don't know if you guys knew this, but over 400,000 people have registered to vote in 2020 via Snapchat. Snapchat has a direct portal for voter registration, and they've been doing information about the polls and everything else. So I find it funny how one of the larger platforms, which would be Facebook, hasn't been able to make this kind of impact, but the platform that's only owned by two people, where they still control 95.8% of their voting power, which is with Snapchat, the two owners there, and they've been able to almost register close to 500,000 people for voter registration. So that leads me to a question for both of you all. Do you feel there needs to be more control over the kind of content? Do we have to get to a point where we start monitoring and controlling what content can be posted to social media due to the impact and influences that it has on today's society?
Yeah, I totally think we should. I wish that Facebook and, of course, Instagram, all those, they're together, and Twitter, like, I wish they did that. I wish they were more responsible in that way. But like you said, it's a money thing going on there. And I wish we had our own Black-owned social media network that was, formidable and competitive with these, where we could control that. Will that ever happen? Who knows what Mark got going on? I don't know. But I wish it would, because I feel like that's a game changer. And to see that Snapchat did that goes to prove that it can be done. And I feel like technology is that gap. Like, I feel like our governments are so behind when it came to technology. Like, all of us realized that we could do a Zoom government meeting now. And I have been saying that for years. I was like, why isn't this digital? Why can't I stream this? I'm coming home from work. I can't make it to county government or city hall to go to a meeting. I could watch it. I could listen to it on my way home. I could watch it in replay. And so I feel like technology is that gap. I just feel like, for whatever reason, whatever corporations, whether it's money or control, like, they're just not letting it go, and they're not really using it the way it could be best used.
It's what you said, though, control. Like the old saying used to, if you want to hide something you put it in a book.
That part.
So I think the fear is the exposure to, and when a lot of people like it's too much exposure, I think the exposure is to the truth. But with you being a journalist and Toya, what you doing the content with me, if that becomes the case, how does that impede on First Amendments? Because now you impede on the freedom of speech. So is it that you put your information on your own platform, or what is controlled and what's not controlled? Because that leads us then towards more of a dictatorship versus a free world.
I don't think so. I don't know, Toya, you want to chime in?
You the guest, I was going to let you give your piece. But censorship is a little bit different, right, than control. And I think when you're talking about controlling what people are saying versus maybe how the technology is being used, that's a little bit of a different situation. And so how Snapchat is being used as a tool in a vehicle. It's not monitoring what people are saying on Snapchat, which is where the censorship comes in. So as long as censorship stays censorship and it's a clear delineation between the two, then I think it's a safe place to be. When it becomes where the government is like, oh, keyword, flag you, blacklisted, I'm shutting you down.
Right.
That's different. Now that's when it's like, pause. Where we living? What country is this?
I can see that.
And even with Facebook is owned by, shareholders, like that's not a government run, platform. So I feel like too, like if they wanted to have some type of regulation where they're making sure like fake news, or I hate to say that, but not being put out there, more things, play with their algorithms, they can do that. And if people feel like, or they're censoring me or they're stopping me, then go make your own Facebook or go scream on a street corner or do whatever you want to. Like nobody's stopping you from speaking whatever your truth is. But I think if you can control a company and you have that big of a reach, and that, like, I feel like you have some responsibility in how information is disseminated. And I feel like Facebook dropped the ball on that. Sometimes like that last election, it was like, come on, the Russian bots and all this other stuff. Like there was more control that you could have had because it's your company. You just don't have to like, okay, it's freedom of speech and we just gonna let everything ride. Like, no, I don't think that's cool. And I feel like that could be also a game changer with saving, especially local news, like getting some of that out, those algorithms together and making sure that, certain information can be pushed or, people see it. Like the old Facebook, I would see everything. Like now I feel like it's only the paid stuff. And so I just feel like too, what the social media giants do also will affect like local news and how we get our information as well. And I think there's some responsibility in that too from them. I hope they take up that mantle.
Yeah, it's the conversation we've had. Like people do not wake up and go Google and say recent news, or they don't go to abc.com, or they go to Facebook to find their news now. And I think they might have to consider a different set of regulations on Facebook, the same way you have on the news structure. Like you are responsible for the information you're communicating. But then it goes also to the platform of it's just a platform. They're not actually communicating anything.
Right.
If every user decided, hey, tomorrow we're not going to post anything, Facebook wouldn't have any new content. So
that's true.
It becomes a debate on the people versus what the people post, which is why I always tell certain people, and they're like, oh, I don't like people all up in my business. There's nothing that says when you wake up, you must post your business on Facebook or Instagram.
Exactly. You control all of that.
Right. If you don't want the feedback, don't make the post. Guess what? If I don't want y'all to know how my shoes, if I don't want y'all feedback on my shoes, for one, I don't take a picture of the shoes. But if I take a picture for my personal reasons, I send it to my friends and family. I don't post it on a public platform, which I'm looking for that attention to get the feedback. I think it's the way you utilize it. Every time I have a bad day, I don't post it. Every time I have a great day, I don't post it. But I'm still having those bad and great days, no matter how it looks. But to go one of your other questions, though, one of the other statements, we did have Black Planet at one point. So I've always challenged people in question, if there was a replica, let's just call it the Black Book. It looks just like Facebook, same operations, but it doesn't have the numbers. Now, this is the thing. No matter how we see the numbers, there's still stats and there's still data. We still are less than 20% of the US population. If there was an exclusive platform where you can only now reach out to 20%, and then those that decide they want to invest into your culture, would you actually make that jump? For personal reasons, I could see some people doing it. For business reasons, it's not the best business move.
I think it depends. For me, it would be a good business move because that's an audience I want to reach. So I think it depends on what your business is. Like I would go.
I'm glad you said that because I want to say something to that.
Okay.
That's what your business model is, but you would be amazed at what your business model impacts. Because I bet you probably have more white readers that's reading your content to understand what's going on in the community versus the readers themselves. Sometimes your sources are used for other people to understand and dive into because you're actually creating a narrative for somebody else to be able to digest. So if
I wouldn't leave the mainstream or white platforms though. I would go over there.
If you don't leave them, you still haven't divested enough of. To me, this is almost like the third party argument.
Okay.
Right? 90% of Republicans have no intent of ever leaving the Republicans or starting another party. But we have this large group of Democrats or people that are unparty selected, like we should start our own party. The numbers just will never add up. You'll never have enough to actually overturn the Republican Party. Now you can stay within the Democratic Party and then try to change the values of that. But what I don't see is a lot of Republicans like, we need to start our own party. We need to do this. They did that when they did the Tea Party. They came in and they made it what they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So mathematically, I don't see how an additional platform, unfortunately, Facebook to me has a straight up monopoly. I always see, shout out to Michelle that wanted to do her platform. The name just slipped me, but Michelle wanted to start a platform that allowed people to get away from Facebook. I always see people that want to get away, but the funny thing is, even to get away, you got to promote the getting away on Facebook.
I know.
Yeah, more hard. We're critical because you want critical mass, right? So if you there, you like, ain't nobody seeing it, so I still got to go back over here.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that, a lot of people aren't early adopters. Most people are going to move when the mass moves. So it's really, really hard when you're talking about trying to like abandon Facebook. Because then, to your point, if you're a Facebook user, where do you go? Who you gonna have a conversation with? Because your friends may not join you on that platform.
And because we talked about that, even because there's a lot of stuff, Janay, that you could post. Just imagine if all you did was post everything onto your website, but you never promoted it on Facebook. How many people are actually waking up every day in the 1 of 10 websites? Because that's how you got to think. When you scroll on Facebook, you're digesting information from probably 10 to 20 different sources with a couple of scrolls. How many people are waking up? I know nobody's waking up and like, oh, let me go see what's on digigrass.com. How many people are going to howlownews.com?
Not what I refer.
We're not, as I say now, we're not the toilet seat app. Chrome and Safari are not your toilet seat apps. They're not the things people sit there and go to when they're sitting on the toilet. Outlook, Mail, and Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, those are your toilet seat apps. Those are the things that people, before they brush their teeth, those are the top 5 apps people are going into. They're not going to Safari to see the current news or anything like that. So there's such a psychological break that would have to happen to shift that culture. I'm using this because I want to challenge people. Share more content like the one you see from High Low News. Be more supportive of your local journalists that are actually sharing information that's directly related to you. Because some of you guys are sharing topics that you really don't care about. You're just sharing it because you like to see those likes. You're addicted to that dopamine. You like to see the likes. You like to feel that attention. Question I want to ask both of you ladies. Right now they're saying the pandemic in 25 weeks has set us back by 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
In what way?
For global development.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In your personal life, what setbacks, besides for me, which is gaining back these 8 pounds I had clearly gotten rid of?
Mine too.
What setbacks do you feel you have occurred in the last 25 weeks from your personal, not personal development, but your personal business development?
So I would say the human connection, kind of you know what I'm saying? Being able to be around people and do that connection is one thing. You could do a lot digitally, but there's still a miss. There's a miss there. It's not quite the same. Being able to go to, webinars and sit and mingle and network with people, it provides a different experience. We have a guest. In your class, sir.
I got off my glass.
I still hear them. So
speaking of setbacks,
no, this is 2020, and I'm not even batting the eye because I'm so used to it.
Yeah, you're used to it now. It's not like back in the day. They'd be like, "Oh my God, pause it, wait till he gets off camera." It's like, I go on the show. There it is.
Right. So that's true, right? It's a lot of just the juggling. It's a lot of juggling, and there's no differentiation. So you have to put a lot of that into place by yourself because my day will just run together.
Right.
Every day is the same day.
Yeah, it's been Saturday since March 15th for me. So
Right.
Saturday and Monday at the same time. Like, it's very weird.
Right. You got to structure your time to be disciplined because you can do whatever because you're at home, but then you really got to get stuff done and it feels like Monday. That's actually a great description, what you just said. It's been Saturday and Monday for the last 25 weeks.
Exactly. Because you could get into that binge of like working for like, for me, I remember one time I went like 18 hours and I'm just like in here and I would never be at nobody's job for 18 hours straight. Like, but I just, you're here, you're home and you kind of get into the zone. For me, I think a setback, I guess, would be traveling. Like I haven't been able to go back and forth as much as I would like to between like Miami, and my boyfriend lives out of town. So I quarantined with him. So I would have been back and forth to Miami about 10 times by now. And it's just not the safest thing to do. So I say that's like a big barrier for me. But it stopped me. Like, it stopped my business at first. And then it kind of helped because everything was digital. So I was able to reach a lot more people, make different partnerships and connections. Like you said, with Brian Breslin with Refresh Miami.
Right.
Like, I don't think in a pre-COVID world, we would have been able to connect like that, and like him taking on and like saying, I'm gonna, do your website, of course, like the George Floyd thing and everybody wanted to support Black business played into it. But I think the way we connected, I don't think that happens pre-COVID the way it did.
No, that makes sense. Another thing that I want to talk about is the targeted advertisement and targeted data. AT&T has the possibility of 2021 coming out with ad-supported mobile plans.
What?
So ad-supported mobile plans, and this is also for our viewers up there. This is a quick information, just so you know. So AT&T is talking about the possibility of lowering your monthly plans. These plans will reduce the cost of phone bills in exchange for targeted advertising directly onto the device. The plans could launch as early as 2021. Now that sounds good, but the load of advertising is only talking about $5 to $10 reduction. Are you willing to give up your privacy and data for a $5 to $10 decrease on your phone bill?
No. What am I smoking crack? Like, do I need that extra? Like, why do I need an extra $10? I thought they was gonna say like $20, $30, maybe 50, like, for you to bombard me with ads. But see, that may be a first world problem or, a Bougetto problem. Like, somebody may be like, that $10 gonna come in handy. So I think it's economic background. But for me, you can't annoy me for $10. However, I love the idea as a business person. I'm like, ooh,
right,
straight to their phone.
Love you, thank you.
So another thing is video calls. There has a video calls lens that's turning gestures into comic style text bubbles for when you're on mute. So you know how when you're, like Toya was just going through, Toya could be on mute and could do this, and an animated bubble would come up that would say yes or generate something. So I'm looking at that, and at first it sounds great. The other part of me thinks this is a lot of data capturing, because now that would give them the rights to copy the movements of what you're doing to start analyzing human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of things like this, it goes back to what we were saying, setting the world back 25 years, and Toya, you was just talking about it. What's really going on when we sitting there in these webinars? Do we now have to start taping the lens up again and just having our face on there? Because you have to assume now they're capturing data to actually pay attention to your human behavior, how you're engaging with these webinars, which is something you normally couldn't do at a live speaking engagement. So imagine now I'm speaking to a group of 200, 500 people on a webinar, even just 20 people on a platform, and somebody is able to go back and do a digital analysis of the emotional responses people were giving when I was saying key things throughout my speech.
That's some good for the speaker and for the brand. I'm like, yes, give me the data.
I know, it's like you have two minds when it comes to it. It's like my privacy, then it's like, oh goodness, this is great for business.
Right. Oh, trigger word, that's an ad word.
I know.
But no, I think that's interesting. And then also the complexity of culture, right? So, this may be a thing, but somebody else do it, it may mean something else. So I think that goes back to mapping the human experience and then what that looks like. I think it could be really interesting. So that's me nerding out real quick, just for the information and how that could help to inform a lot of different things. And then also when you talk about sort of the inequalities when it comes to facial recognition and just how a lot of that has not included the full spectrum of people. Hopefully, if that happens, then now it's a wider net that's cast, and it can include more people to make sure that the technology that they're building accounts for everybody's experience.
Yeah, and with technology, like you said, it's always some good and bad when it comes to it. I'm like, how much is it of them capturing me and others without no pants on? Because and is that going into today? I got on my pants, but a lot of these Zoom meetings, I'm just sitting here with a t-shirt on, and I'm like, is that being captured too? Is that a part of the behavior that they're gonna figure out that we don't like to wear pants in our house?
It depends. If it's not on camera, it's not seen. But yeah, when you're moving around, there is that data that's captured versus what you're streaming versus the pre data when they're doing the analysis. So I would definitely say before you even get into the app, be in position. Because once you move, it gives that camera the opportunity to not just evaluate you, but to also evaluate and capture data of everything that's within your space.
Oh wow, they got me. I hope this one video of me in my drawers is because they don't got me, because I don't been in front of this camera too many times with no pants on.
Listen, everybody better invest in that little slider. You slide it, push it.
I need that because I'm definitely the absent-minded one, just because you forget that you're actually with other people. I'm like, I'm home.
Yeah.
I try not to talk to people that much. I don't like people so I mean, I get it. Janay, do you have any upcoming news or any information we should be aware of? Because we're wrapping down to the last 4 minutes of the show. So I want to give you a chance to promote all your platforms and any upcoming and exciting news you have.
Well, everybody, again, thank you guys for having me, LaToya and Mike. Follow me on Hilo News, HYLONEWS on all social media platforms. Head to our website if you want to see our articles, hilonewsmiami.com, and sign up for our newsletter while you're there. You get some dope stuff going on. And coming up, I'm going to do we talked about domestic violence earlier, so I'm going to do a whole series around that. Doing some panels, want to provide resources. I want to have a conversation with men. Mike, maybe you could come on. I want to, just have that type of conversation about it. And so I want to do a really whole series around domestic violence in October. So that's what's coming up for us.
I'll tell you my view on domestic violence real quick.
Okay.
Remember, I called a young man that was actually my age, but he was supposed to be a young man because he was dating my sister. I was in my late 20s. So that made my sister only like 18 years old. So I'm 28 years old. He's supposed to be 20 or something. This man ended up being close to my age.
Wow.
And the phone call went like this: you're messing with two things I'm willing to die for. That's my sister and my mother. I will kill you, sit on your porch, claim insanity, and serve my years, but you'll be dead. So you have a choice: die or continue to date my sister. Now, the beginning of that phone call started off, this is what you don't do to tech guys. It started off with me reading his social security number, his address, his boss's name, and his shift for the upcoming week, because he worked in the armed forces. So I told him if he liked his career, he should probably stop dating my sister. Now, my sister lost her boyfriend and she didn't know what happened to him, but it worked out for the best.
Yeah. You should have been my brother.
Shout out to my nephew Leo. That's like Toya, any exciting news? You on HSN again? Because every time we talk to you, you back on HSN. So
I know.
We're sold out at the moment.
Oh shit! Yo, yeah.
Congrats.
We need graphics. That should have been
to them in like October. So we'll be on probably like in holiday season. So we'll be back on later in the year. But had a really cool partnership that we're doing this week with Natural. They are a hair care brand. So going to be speaking at their conference on Saturday, and I'm doing a live chat on IG tomorrow with the CEO.
So they invested in y'all yet? Because I mean, y'all are pretty much making their show pop. Like I'm not caring about HSN until you started talking about them. So I'm just saying, what's going on?
Listen, they want to continue to work with us, so we're here for it. Keep us coming.
I am so proud of you. And this another thing, y'all just support each other, man. You don't have to be winning to celebrate somebody else's win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I did a profile on LaToya about her company for MIA magazine, and I'm going to drop one for High Low News too. So I've learned all about it, and I'm mad that I didn't order mine in time because I need my. Every time I do my hair, I'm like, I need that clip from LaToya. Like I need that pic. So
the pic is in stock, so we don't have.
I gotta get that. I gotta get that.
So send Janey a pic. I'll pay for her pic.
Mike,
that's nice.
Look at God.
Good, Janey.
Look at God.
So go ahead and put one aside for her. I'll take care of it.
I appreciate that, Michael.
So someone needs to hear this real quick. And Dante, I don't need to go in the main frame. I can stay here with the lady so to see it because it's going to be short. Quit being assholes. Like, I know a lot of y'all are frustrated right now. I know a lot of people, you're not happy with the situations you're in. You're trapped in the house. Things aren't going right. Just be kind to people. It don't take a lot. You know, if she complaining about the house being dirty, just clean up. If the food ain't right, just offer to go out and buy something, cook together, do something. Just quit being assholes to each other, y'all. It's bad already. Don't make it worse in your own kingdom. Just take a deep breath. Be nice to each other. Figure it out. But there's some people that's dying. You got people in California that has lost their whole lives. There's people that are dead. You're here. Make the best of the time while you're here. I know it's rough. I know it's hurting right now. I know sometimes you just want to give up. But it's a new 24 hours. The clock just started. Play the game again. It's just like video games. You die and you get to hit restart. You got the restart. Keep playing. But just quit being assholes. And all you dumb, smart people on Facebook, quit spreading false information and telling people stuff that you have not taken the time to research to know to be true. Because if I hear one more person talk about Benjamin Crump losing cases and that's y'all state attorneys that y'all not out there voting for,
right?
I am going to slap the dog piss out of you. I'm tired of hearing it. And that's what I mean by quit being an asshole. Quit lying to people. You ain't that smart. I don't care who your family is. Get the right information and spread that information. Use Google for more than just finding images and to see if Cardi B is really divorcing Offset. Because y'all brains is Offset right now. And ain't none of y'all really got that wop like you think you do.
Oh my God.
Someone needs to hear this. So I would like to thank Renee for coming on to the show. And of course, the most amazing LaToya and our amazing producer. Y'all saw how fast. Yeah. Shout out to Dante for always holding us down. But that's I don't need to shout out. Y'all make me great. I appreciate the team and the people around me that put me where I'm at, because without these people, it wouldn't happen. So I'm here. The mic is on because I got great people around me, and I'm happy with that life. But shout out to my wife. We had a great week. Appreciate that. So Tamila said, "Go take a nap." Anyway,
my cousin.
That's Toya.
That's right.
And this is Tech Beats and Bytes.